Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining another session of Presidio C-Suite Perspectives, where we discuss technology trends, innovation, culture, management, and leadership with the technology industry's leading CEOs. Today's guest is Antonio Neri, Chief Executive Officer of Hewlett-Packard Enterprise. We'll hear from Antonio about his experiences and insights he's learned from 25 years at HP and HPE, how he views his mission, and where he sees HPE aligning with today's most important technological requirements. I have no doubt that at the end of our session today, you'll be better informed on the future technology decisions that are most important to helping you achieve your business objectives. Before we get started, let me give you a little background about our guest. As the President and Chief Executive Officer of Hewlett-Packard Enterprises, the global edge-to-cloud platform as a services company, Antonio is responsible for the development and delivery of enterprise technology solutions and services that help organizations accelerate outcomes by unlocking value from all of their data everywhere. During his more than 25 years at Hewlett-Packard Company and at HP Enterprise, Antonio has held numerous leadership positions. Most recently, he served as the Executive Vice President and General Manager of HPE's Enterprise Group, which includes the company's server, networking, storage, and technology services business units. Prior to HPE's separation from HP, Antonio ran the server and networking business. Before that, he led HPE's technology services business, which provided technology support and consulting services for HPE's products and solutions. He spent the earlier part of his career in various engineering and leadership roles in HPE's printing and personal business systems unit. Antonio has been at the forefront in the strategy, development, and introduction of many breakthrough innovations at HP and HPE, including HPE Apollo, HPE Superdome X, HPE Synergy, HPE Cloudline, and HPE Moonshot, the first software-defined compute platform. He was also responsible for HPE's acquisition and integrations of Aruba Networks, SGI, SimpliVity, Niara, Rasa Networks, Nimble Storage, Cloud Cruiser, and Cloud Technology Partners. Antonio currently serves as the director of Anthem Incorporated, and he's a professor of drawing and painting, a true Renaissance man. Antonio, thank you for joining us today. It's great to see you again. How are you?
Good. Thank you for having me today. Doing great.
And it's been we spoke, I think, a few weeks ago, and you were recounting your I guess your battle with COVID-19.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about that again, because that was you played hurt. You played hurt throughout the entire illness.
Well, it happened at an interesting time because we were on the verge to host our digital virtual experience around Discover, right? And as you know, that's our big flagship event where we bring thousands and thousands of customers and partners. And I got sick the week before, so I had to get through the event. And obviously, we did it remotely through the digital platform, which actually worked out really great. But I have to say, my experience was probably a good one. I consider myself privileged because of two things. One is I don't think I had a very tough case of COVID. Even though I had fever and I was fatigued and tired for a week, I didn't have any complications. So I was fortunate about that. And number two, I was taken care of by good physicians as a part of the Stanford Clinic. And that's a reassurance, right? Which obviously not everybody gets the benefit of it. And that, got to me for me to think about how people are getting through this. So overall, I will say all in all, okay. But the good news is I'm having the antibodies now and moving along and feeling good. Thank you for asking.
That's great. That's great. So I mean, certainly you had personal experience with the virus, and I'm sure a number of your employees did as well. But in essence, all our organizations have been infected with some form of COVID. And certainly, back in March and I think through May and into June, it was a certain experience or a certain environment for the organization. And I think what we've found now, as we're moving into the third quarter and now into the fourth quarter of the year, we're in a bit of a different phase. Right. Organizationally, our clients are in a different phase organizationally. So if you think back to the beginning of this process or this crisis, how have you seen HP change and react to it? And then I'll save the second half of that is, how have you seen your customers react to it and change through the last 6+ months?
Well, first of all, the pandemic has had a tremendous impact to businesses and society as a whole. I think many of the impacts that we have seen are lasting permanent changes that are going to be with us forever. I think the workplace has changed dramatically. And then obviously customers continue to adapt to this situation, right? So first is how we bring people back to work in a safely way. Second is what are the key priorities for them going forward? And I will say the one common theme I have seen is the need to drive resiliency in their IT environments, and then the acceleration of the digital transformation. Those are the two very clear outcomes. And when I think about that enterprise of the future, how it looks like, it's kind of fascinating to me that unfortunately the events that we have gone through the last 6 months have validated what we said 3 years ago, which the enterprise of the future will be edge-centric, cloud-enabled, and data-driven. Here we are. The edge is where we live, where we work. You and I having this conversation over a video call. We are both our respective residents, and then we have been operating that from with that environment for the last 6 months. But then cloud obviously is an acceleration of outcomes in terms of speed and delivery. But what I see, Bob, is a tremendous upside and opportunity to extract data, insights from the data. And we talked about it at my event, the new age of insights. So IT resiliency, digital transformation, and connectivity are three key aspects of what we've seen the last 6 months. And we as a company continue to accelerate our strategy to become that edge-to-cloud platform as a service company. And while it's unfortunately going through these events, it's also an opportunity to accelerate what we're doing as a company.
So how do you accelerate within your organization? What are some of the things that you're doing differently now than you might not have been doing 6-12 months ago, as you were following a more methodical pace as our customers were? But now that our customers are accelerating, so what have you done within your organization to match that speed?
Well, we were already convicted pre-COVID about what this future looks like and where the opportunities are for us as a company to play and win in the market. So if you go back to June, when we introduced the next generation of HPE GreenLake Cloud Services, we're going faster. That's a business that's booming for us. Last quarter we grew 82%. And what we noticed is customers are trying to preserve liquidity. And therefore, anything that they consume as a service is taking off like we've never seen it before. So becoming more cloud native in everything we do and put the as a service model at the center of our design and innovation roadmap is something that we have doubled down. Second piece of this is that, any digital transformation starts by connecting people and devices and things. And obviously with the IoT, growth we've seen, that requires connectivity to be pervasive everywhere. Also, from the society perspective, we believe connectivity now is essential, like water and electricity. But also, as a leader, we have a tremendous responsibility to make it inclusive. And so as we move forward with this digital economy, we cannot afford to leave people behind and create a digital divide. For us, it's doubling down in that connectivity to create these experiences at the edge. And obviously, we have a phenomenal platform with HPE Aruba that we continue to drive very aggressively in the market. And we just closed the transaction with Silver Peak, which is a pure software-defined wide area network, which we are integrating in the same cloud control plane. What that will do, Bob, is be able to connect all their edges and all the clouds for our customers. So again, double down on that. And then obviously, we have a very solid and prestigious, I will call it, legacy business because our core compute and storage. But what we're doing there is pivot all the software management into a SaaS model and become more cloud native and even more secure at the infrastructure level from the silicon side all the way to the workload side. So these are areas that we are doubling down, and then we wrap all of this with AI technologies, both inside our solutions to make it more intelligent and autonomous so we can reduce costs for customers, and then obviously AI for the sake of extracting insight from the data. Those are the principles. And then as always, right, you got to become more efficient in everything you do. So an opportunity to streamline our back-end operations and, what I call the back of the house versus the front of the house. And in that, to me, is an opportunity to save costs to reinvest in these areas of growth.
It sounds like a lot of things that a lot of the same elements that our customers are going through as well. Now, you've been with HP for 25 plus
25 years. 25 years.
And you came up as an engineer initially?
Well, my first job, my first job at HP, because I came through the HP side of the path, it was a call center agent supporting customers on the phone. However, that was 25 years ago. However, that was not my first job as an IT professional. Actually, I was an apprentice since I was in the middle school. So that was actually my fourth job. But I got the pleasure, the honor, the privilege to work with very smart people inside the HP and the compact merger and several CEOs in between. But what I'm really proud is the fact that this company has an incredible culture for customers, being customer-centric in everything we do, and to drive innovation that advances the way people live and work, which is our purpose in life. So it's been a remarkable journey for me personally, and I get to do something that only very few people are privileged, because in reality, I'm actually the fifth CEO within the company. You know, after Bill and Dave and John Young and Lou Platt, we had four CEOs in between that came from outside. And my predecessor and friend, Meg Whitman, realized after the transformation she drove was done that needed someone with more technical understanding than just a business. And she asked me with the board, obviously, to become the CEO. And that's an incredible honor.
Yeah, I mean, that the culture and the history of HP, obviously well known, but the engineering heritage that you guys had from the very, very beginning was always one of the strongest calling cards. And it seemed that the business for a short period of time, I think, pre-Megan, et cetera, seemed to have lost its way in terms of the engineering. Now, how did HP and now you kind of bring that innovation back into the organization, or reignite some of those elements that may have been pushed to the side a little bit for a little while?
Let me start by saying, Bob, that we never stop innovating, right? I think we have way too many things in flight and too many priorities. And when you're a $120 billion company with several lines of business and the need to compete in every segment and actually fund capital to each of the segment was becoming hard. And that's where, Meg realized we got to create more focus for each of the businesses. And that's why we split the company. And then eventually we decided to spin a couple of businesses that we felt was not the right places for us to compete. But I'm an engineer by trade. So, that's what I like to do. I've been part of some of the key innovations we brought to market in the 2012, 13, 14. Think about, in-memory computing, high-performance computing, and as well as the composable infrastructure with our HP Synergy and so forth, when I used to run the compute business. And for us to compete and win, we need two things. We need the best innovation and the best talent. And so when I became CEO, I established three key priorities for myself. Number one is our customers and partners. So here we are, talking to you, and obviously Presidio does a phenomenal job for us and for our joint customers. Number two is the innovation. And I feel very proud of the innovation we brought to market in the last 2.5 years, almost 3 years. But I think about innovation in three forms: organic innovation, which obviously is a better return for our shareholders; inorganic innovation, which is basically the way I think about it, is how we accelerate our strategy through acquisition of IP and talent that we can scale faster to our go-to-market and integrate in a solution. And then number three is to partnerships. And obviously our partners like you add tremendous value in adding their own capabilities on top of our solutions. So with that in mind, that was my priority when I became CEO. But then last but not least, probably the most important, is the culture of the company. And this is where I'm really proud of it, because we have changed the company from inside out. We created a culture for passion for customers. We have four core beliefs in our culture, which is we believe in accelerating what is next. We believe in bold moves. We believe in the power of yes, we can, where we put the we before the I, and then we believe in being in a force for good. That comes from the values of HPE with Bill and Dave, which is make a contribution and give back to the society. So it has been really good, but you're as good as last quarter, and therefore you have to keep going. And this is my commitment to our customers and partners to continue to drive that acceleration of the innovation so we can accelerate outcomes for our customers.
So one of those partnerships or inorganic relationships is Panzanda, right? With John Chambers and his folks.
My friend,
and that's
people will not think about it, right? John Chambers, ex-CEO of Cisco and chairman, and Antonio, the president CEO of HPE. How these two people can't even talk to each other. But John and I have a common view of the future and a common set of core beliefs and values. And that's where John and I became good friends. And that's why we invest in his company, Panzanda.
Yeah. So we're starting to see a lot of interest, certainly in our larger enterprise clients around the platform. Perhaps you want to take a couple of seconds and just explain to the CIOs who are listening in, where you see Panzanda fitting, not just in your portfolio, but really fitting in the value creation that they can deliver within their organization.
Well, today we live in a mobile-first, cloud-first approach, and I call it more a centralized model, right? Where obviously your mobile phone is the terminal and the brain is the cloud. And to me, the cloud is not a destination. It is an experience. And so the question is how we bring that experience to all the applications and the workloads and the data that lives everywhere. And in that context, we see more apps and data moving to the edge. And the edge definition we have is now the telecommunication edge with a tower and antenna, which is important. We think about the edge as the place where we live and work. Example, your house now, in my definition, is the definition of micro branch. We used to have obviously a cloud, a data center, a campus, which could be your main headquarters, and maybe a sales office that you have throughout the United States. That's the branch. Now you have the micro branch, which is basically your home. And in that context, physically and economically, it's cheaper to move the cloud computing capacity to where the data is, not the data where the compute is. And this is where we see now moving from a centralized model that we just talked about, the mobile phone and the cloud, to a massive, both decentralized and centralized model. In effect, what we are creating, we're moving from a data center to centers of data everywhere. And that massive distributed model needs connectivity, the first step, in being able to drive a digital experience. And in that context, what John and I believe, we need to democratize the cloud for all the apps and data wherever they live. So Panzanda brings a series of connecting technologies that we can incorporate in our compute nodes and be able to offload a lot of the computational capacity into the network at the speed that the data comes in. So as the connectivity gets made between those centers of data with a big data center in the cloud, as the data gets processed, we can process the data at the network in a secure way, free up more capacity at the compute to do the more intensive type of task, and drive a very secure and effective edge-to-cloud architecture that ultimately requires software, right, to be able to do it at scale. And this is where the combination of Hewlett-Packard Enterprise, the compute portfolio with our ProLiant and Synergy, as well as storage, and our software stack, and ultimately the as-a-service model, we can provide a cloud experience for all the apps and data wherever they live. And it's very exciting. And so John and I are driving that very aggressively with our joint teams, and you will see the result of that very soon. But ultimately, it's to drive workload optimized solutions. It's not just infrastructure. It's focus on that workload and how we deliver outcome from the workloads and data much faster.
Now, you obviously speak with a lot of CIOs and CXOs at your client base. What have you been hearing about what their key priorities are in the short term and in the midterm? Because obviously short term, we're still dealing with specific scenarios, but midterm and then to the longer term is preparing the business for a much longer success cycle. So what are you hearing are their top priorities or their top concerns?
Well, the common theme, Bob, is the fact that they need to accelerate the digital transformation in order to stay competitive and ahead of the curve. That's a common theme. And so that's step one. Step two is the fact that they need to redesign these experiences they provide to their employees in the way they're going to work. And that's why even inside our company, we have developed solutions for returning to work, with protocols and technologies that we can monitor what's happening, even with the virus. But the reality is that they need remote connectivity, and they need to do it at scale with security, embedded. So that's the other piece of it, and that's why I'm so excited about our Silver Peak acquisition, because now we can provide every aspect of connectivity, whether it's Wi-Fi, LAN, and WAN, with all the analytics security embedded in the cloud. So that's the other piece of it. Then IT resiliency is very important for them, right? And then as you think about the massive distributed workforce, VDI solutions has been a significant uptick in the last few months. But then it goes back always to the same principle, right? So how I automate everything, how I secure everything, how I accelerate the implementation of these digital capabilities, but ultimately how I extract value from the data faster. Because we know they are using less than 10% of the data that they create. And the reality, they need to get insights to improve their business models. And this is why AI and machine learning are taking off dramatically. And this is where we came out with solutions that you can deploy on-prem without moving the data. And we have this joke, right? Once you move the data to the public cloud, it's like checking in Hotel California. You check in, you never check out, because the cost of aggressing data back and forth is killing you. So what if we give the same cloud experience for those big data-intensive workloads where you need to apply machine learning and AI on-prem? So the first thing you benefit, you don't have to move the data. The second thing, you don't have to manage the cost of moving data back and forth, because ultimately that's a cost of bandwidth, and it's more secure and more compliant. And so we bring that AI capability that you can consume elastically based on your needs. And we see some excellent outcomes with HPE GreenLake and Splunk as a great example, because we have technologies like Blue Data Storage that can run the MLOps at scale on premises. So those are the things we see. Those are the general themes, but it's a tremendous opportunity going forward.
Yeah, I think it's certainly for us, but more so for our clients to really take advantage of the technology and take advantage of those insights and really provide value to the business. And I think with that, we always seem to be talking about in this industry about how the role of the CIO is changing. But It seems that yet again through the crisis, and now as we're coming out of it, the role of the CIO is fundamentally changing in terms of how they think about their organization, how they manage their organization, how they consume and procure technology. When you talk with CIOs, are they talking about how they have to change what they do and how they have to change their organizational, not just from a technical standpoint, but either from a structure or a process or a economic?
From a culture perspective, I will say the culture is key, right? Not different than you and I in our organization. I think they are dealing with the same challenges, right? There is lack of skills, shortages of skills in many ways in these new areas. And you think about it, I mean, I'm sure you're doing the same thing as we do. We bring new blood into the organization all the time with a completely different mentality of how to approach things, how to develop things. And that's important because it's essential for the fabric of your company to keep moving in the right direction. I will say, obviously, depending on the CIO, the verticals you're in, but the reality, we're talking more than CIOs now. We're talking to the CFO, the line of business, the DevOps, and the VP of Ops, and we can go on and on. I think the CIOs, over time, in my view, they're going to become more service brokers. And so they want to be less in the running side of IT and more on the innovation side. And that's why offers like we have with GreenLake and your capabilities, we can actually free up a lot of CapEx and OpEx so they can retest that into these innovation areas. But, in the future, I think the CIO will be not different than trading currency or gold. No matter. You will look at screen, you look at a hybrid estate, you will find the right mix of what that cloud experience looks like between the edge, the on-prem, and somebody else's cloud. And then dynamically and intelligently through the policies define where you want the data to reside and where you run the workloads. And it's basically moving things dynamically, like sliding a dial. Not in the guts of let me re-architect the entire network or let me re-architect my compute farm and my storage farm. That's not what the value will be. But those are essential resources in order to be able to do it at scale and in a very efficient way. So this is why I said earlier about we got to continue to move our journey to become even cloud native on things like people even think about it, compute and storage. Well, we can give you that, but we can do it at the workload level and move away from all this complexity and churn that you will have.
That's something we've been talking with CIOs about as well, this concept for a couple of years now, that it's essentially there's a big portfolio management element to their role, exactly what you described. Right. Whether it's a trader element or a portfolio management, they're looking to maximize the return on their investments in their assets, whether it's valuable workloads or data sets or what have you, and then the ability to have a more portable platform in order to do that, so they can find those efficiencies or greater security or greater compliance or greater performance, whatever the metric is that they want to maximize at that point in time. They're able to do that. And we are seeing that same shift as well, where they're looking to really kind of get out of the running business.
Correct. Well, that's why we have pivoted the company to become more services oriented, no question about it. We, just as a reminder for the audience, we have 60,000 employees. 1/3 of them, 20,000+ are services people. The people don't realize we have 8,000 software engineers in this company. They see us as an infrastructure company. No, we are a services company and a software company together with the infrastructure. And that's why we feel pretty good to build to these solutions from the edge to cloud. And that's why we are not only building a platform that's truly cloud native, but also the consumption-driven model. And this is where, we have no legacy like others, right? So we have no legacy like, for example, VMware or others that have to make that transition over time. We actually are building a full new stack with HPEs model through cloud native, which is basically open standards, but we built IP around it in the areas where this ability to move things back and forth through containers, the containerization is hard. And there are two inherent challenges. One is security, the other one is persistent storage connectivity. We have solved those problems, and we can show customers they can run both the legacy and the new environment in the same stack. We can automate everything, so they don't have to put people to run it, and they can run these big data intensive workloads on top of it. That's what we're doing, and I feel pretty good where we are, and you will see more going forward.
Yeah, no, we already have. We've seen some great effect of it already, and when we look at our business, our recurring revenue stream. So those as a service type offerings, or managed services offerings, and cloud offerings, and it now represents about 50% of our backlog. So when we look at our business, we've always been a very world-class oriented project delivery organization. You had a tough project, Presidio was going to come in and they were going to help you deliver that, and then we would do that over and over again with clients. 98% of our clients, we're seeing projects from them every year. But now it's changing to where the relationship is changing because of the way clients want to utilize technology and where they want to invest organically, where we're becoming more of a services provider. And I think that you're going to see that shift where folks on our side of the fence have to have the scale to invest in those services so that they can be provided at a world-class level to enterprise-level clients. And you're moving from this project relationship to more of a service provider relationship, and helping them accelerate their innovation by helping them manage and operate their infrastructure, their workload, their service delivery models, et cetera. So it's really been a sea change, and one that's, to your point, has accelerated, certainly has been accelerating over the last 18 months and has really taken off in the last 6 months. And our relationship has done the same. Our partnership has it's a long one, but we've seen a lot of acceleration, I think, over the last 12 months. And certainly with the investments that you've been making and the investments that we've been making, we're starting to see even more of an interlock for greater opportunities for us to, jointly and collectively provide some great solutions for our clients.
Yeah, no, and that's the excitement. That's why, we have been a company that has been built together with our partners, right? So there is decades of partnership and joint alignment and serving together their needs. And this company has been, is, and will continue to be a partner-led company. That North Star has never been lost. And that's why when we think about innovation and business model disruption, we think about partners in mind too, because we have to bring you and the rest of your colleagues along the way. Because again, 70% of our business gets done through our partners. Some geos actually is up to 90% of it. So we feel proud about that legacy, and honestly, we believe is a competitive differentiation. But how we create a platform where you can add your own value added as you make your choices and investment in technology and or services capabilities, because a lot obviously is people that they understand how to navigate through this digital transformation and guide customers to the end state. And that's where the power of your portfolio and our portfolio is unbeatable in my view. But ultimately, we have to think about outcomes for our customers. And this is where there is a major transformation in the culture of our sales forces and our solution engineering team, where in the past they used to think about speed and feeds. Now they need to think about outcomes. And that's a big transition. And this is where, I have said many, many times that this transformation will be less about technology, because we're going to pick our battles where to play, and more about that sales DNA. But we treat anybody in a partner network not different than we treat our own salespeople. Exactly the same. It doesn't matter what badge they carry. We give them the same training and the same sales enablement, because ultimately it makes us better.
Yeah, I mean, and ultimately that's what helps drive that client success, right? What the partners can provide, and we've been doing that we've been in that business for a long time, with you, and continue to invest organically and inorganically. We just closed a great acquisition a few weeks ago, Coda Global, which gives us even greater depth in our cloud services, DevOps services, and et cetera, that we can help clients accelerate their journey to a multi-cloud environment as well, and to more of an as-a-service platform, both on the private side and on the public side. So it's really exciting stuff, and we get to do it with great partners like you. And I know we're just about out of time, and we don't want to take up too much of your day, but I do want to thank you very much for joining us. It's great catching up again, Antonio.
Well, first of all, I want to thank you for the amazing partnership and the results we drive together. And giving me the opportunity to be here today with you to speak to your audience. I am actually optimistic at heart, despite all the challenge. I mean, listen, 2020 is a year unlike any others. Pandemics, wildfires in the West Coast. Obviously, we live in a very difficult environment with social unrest. Inclusion and diversity are top of mind for me. But in the end, I'm optimistic, because I believe if we align our forces together, we can drive a better future for both the society and the businesses. And those who participate in the technology space, they can see it, the opportunity to drive something amazing. But we have to do it, with leadership in mind. And obviously that takes courage. But I'm super excited to work with people like you, Bob, and your team, and be able to drive profitable growth for both companies.
Well said. Thank you, Antonio.
Thank you.
We'll catch up with you again soon. All right.
All right. Thank you. Be well, and thank you for having me today again.
Well, thank you everyone for listening, and we hope you found this content meaningful. You can find recordings of other C-Suite Perspective discussions on Presidio.com. We encourage you to further connect with us at inquiries@Presidio.com, or call us at 866-388-9369. Please visit Presidio.com and check back as we announce future speakers. Have a great day, everyone.